News!
Okay, we'll start with this. A follow-up to a story we talked about a few weeks ago where Gabriela Alaniz was able to avenge her loss to Marlena Esparza and effectively become this division's unified ring magazine and lineal champion.
It's quite a feat because I thought she was going to get jobbed again. I picked her to get jobbed in the first fight. I thought it would be a repeat in the second, but she won.
Hey, good for her. But the old saying goes, heavy is the head that wears the crown. And that saying comes to mind when you think about how Samson Lukowicz, who promotes the only other champion at this weight, IBF champion Gabriela Fundora, he provided assurance that Gabriela would be ready to fight Gabriela Alaniz.
Battle of the Gabrielas.
The battle for undisputed in the flyweight division. It's the only fight to make. It's the best fight to make at this weight between the last two women standing, the two remaining champions. I don't even know that there's ever been an undisputed champion at this weight in the four-belt era. This might be the first.
Maybe.
The winner of the fight, whoever it is, whether it's Gabriela Alaniz or Gabriela Fundora, will have a legitimate and credible argument to be ranked amongst the best pound-for-pound women boxers in the sport, somewhere in the bottom tier.
Say it number 7.
Which would theoretically bump Sandy Ryan out of the number 10 spot, as she has the weakest argument of all the pound-for-pound fighters ranked on the current Ring IQ pound-for-pound list. Young Gabriela Fundora sports an unblemished record of 13 wins with no losses, no draws, 6 knockouts. To Gabriela Alaniz, who sports a professional record of 15 wins with 1 loss, no draws, 6 knockouts. Same amount of knockouts as Gabriela Fundora. The quality of competition, it's also about the same. They've both beaten one champion apiece. Gabriela Fundora beat Areli Musinho, then IBF champion,
For the IBF title. And Gabriela Alaniz, as we all know, she beat Marlena Esparza for all of those titles.
Their level of experience is about the same. Their resumes are about the same, the quality of competition, but how they're built, their physical dimensions, they're far from alike.
They're not the same.
Gabriela Alaniz's physical dimensions are in keeping with what you would expect from a flyweight, nothing out of the ordinary, whereas Gabriela Fundora, she's exceptionally tall for this weight, just like her big brother up there at junior middle. She's exceptionally tall for flyweight.
She's a big girl.
She could easily move up from flyweight up to superfly, bantam, super bantam, maybe even as high as feather, because she's got such a big frame.
Right?
So if you put Gabriela Fundora in the ring with Gabriela Alaniz, what should you expect to see? Well, these are both aggressive fighters with a mean streak, and they're both punchers, but the edge has got to go to Gabriela Fundora because she's got more layers to her game, more ways of fighting a fight, and physically, she's got all the advantages. She's taller,
She's taller, she's longer.
more importantly, she knows how to use it. It's not like what you see with her brother, to where he just falls in and trades punches on the inside. No, Gabriela has an educated jab and great range control with it to keep the opponent in line for punches, hard ones that she can really drive, that she exhibits great distance control.
It's not just being tall, it's knowing how to use it.
Gabriela Fundora knows how to use it. She's taller, she's longer, she's stronger. I think she's a stronger puncher, punch for punch, than Gabriela Alaniz.
She'd have a tough assignment.
Very tough. She'd have to try to get close to Gabriela Fundora the entirety of that fight and would come under heavy fire in trying to do so. She's gonna get hit
Big time.
So if you make the fight, I like Gabriela Fundora over Gabriela Alaniz to win that fight and become this division's undisputed champion. The first, I think, in the four-belt era.
No announcements have been made. Not yet. And I wouldn't be surprised if Gabriela Alaniz squeezes in a voluntary title defense before she takes on the only other champion at this weight. I wouldn't be surprised if she wants a little bit of time with all those belts.
But if and when they fight, I've got Gabriela Fundora winning. Okay, we'll start with this. We know that a couple of weeks ago, there seemed to be some kind of a desire, a push, for Bam Rodriguez to move up in weight at some point and face Naoya Inoue To which his trainer, Robert Garcia, veteran trainer Robert Garcia, responded, "We have to focus on Estrada right now. We have to focus on what's next. That's 2 divisions up, so we've got to see that everything goes well on June 29th. After that, we will see what we want to do. 118 is probably something that we could probably consider, but he knew he is 122, so that's a big difference. And even though Bam jumped up 2 divisions to face Carlos Cuadras on short notice, effectively becoming WBC Super Flyweight champion, there's a big difference in jumping up for Carlos Cuadras and jumping up for Inoue. I think that's established.
I don't hold that against Bam. I want to see him stay at Superfly. I want to see him unify that division.
There are a lot of good fights right there for Bam. At 115, at 118 when he decides to go up there, that I don't think it makes any sense at all to just jump up all of a sudden to fight Inoue.
Stupid.
I'm a big fan of how Bam's career is going so far, how they've navigated it and managed it to where I don't think they should make any big jumps or big leaps like that. It's counterintuitive. It's downright stupid. And I'm glad that Robert has brought everyone back down to earth. No, they're not going to go from 115 all the way up to 122 for Inoue.
They're fighting Gallo next.
Gallo Estrada, who Robert Garcia says that was the only fight that Bam Rodriguez wanted. Upon leaving the flyweight division to move back up to the super flyweight division, he wanted Gallo specifically.
Yes.
You know what? This is what Bam wants, Robert Garcia told Boxing Scene. Bam wants to fight the best. When I told him his fight date was June 29th, and I told him it was a possibility it would be Gallo Estrada, he told me, "Look, Robert, I just had my newborn baby, so if it's not against Gallo, I would rather wait a few more months to fight. If it isn't Gallo, I don't want to fight." Matchroom did their job. Gallo Estrada did his job. And the fight is now lined up, said Garcia. We are going to have probably one of the best fights of the year. Estrada has not fought since beating Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez back in 2022.
And he's 34 years old.
The night of it will have been well over a year's time since Gallo last saw action. In spite of that, I think it's a solid fight because of Gallo's experience level, that he is vastly more experienced than Bam Rodriguez. 3-star fight for me, 3-star. It would be a 4-star fight if it were a unification match, or maybe if Gallo were a little bit more active, it would be a 4-star fight. But it's a 3-star fight for me, a solid fight, a good scrap.
Solid.
Estrada is a legend, and he's not going to be an easy opponent, Garcia went on. Before the fight was agreed and signed on, I hadn't studied anything on Gallo. Everybody was already asking me, what's your game plan? What do you think? Well, now that I'm studying Gallo, it is hard. It is going to be hard. That guy is tough. Though Garcia recognizes that Saul Canelo Alvarez is Mexico's biggest draw, Estrada might well be the country's best. I think Gallo Estrada is the most talented fighter in Mexico right now, stated Gersha, even including Canelo Alvarez. Even though Canelo is the face of boxing and the most profitable fighter in Mexico, I think Gallo could be the most talented.
Let's not get carried away here, Robert. This is the guy who struggled with Augie Cortez.
And this is the guy who needed a gift decision in the second Chocolatito fight. The second, which led to the third. The third one he won legitimately. But the second one, I scored that for Chocolatito.
So let's everybody calm down, all right?
So last year, Kazuto Ioka, 4-division champion Kazuto Ioka, he tried to make a fight with Gallo, but Gallo didn't like the money. As a result of that, he ended up sitting out the whole year. He could have had a unification match, but he didn't.
Right?
So in hindsight, now that he's facing Bam in June, late June, does that seem like that was the right decision? To squander all that time, just piss away all that time without having a fight? There was some mention of Juan potentially having a keep busy fight, a little tune-up fight before the Bam Rodriguez fight. As it stands, he doesn't look to be having one.
No tune-up.
Not poo-pooing all over the fight. I'm not shitting on it. I still think it's going to be a good fight, but that's why I don't have any illusions about Gallo. 34 years old. That's up there in age for a super flyweight, especially an inactive one. So I anticipate that Bam is going to beat him. Bam's going to beat him in what is a good fight. Bam might get caught a couple of times because Gallo is strong, and power is the last thing to go.
34 is old now?
For a super flyweight it is. For a heavyweight it isn't. 34, some heavyweights might actually start peaking at that age. But for a smaller fighter who's reliant on speed and reflexes and volume, 34 is up there in age.
Gallo's 34.
So I've got Bam beating him. After that, It would be nice to see Bam take on the winner of Ioka versus Martinez. There's 2 alphabet titles on the line in their fight, too.
If the winner fights Bam, that makes 3.
If Bam fights the winner of that fight. He can also fight reigning 4-division WBO champion Tanaka.
Going to be returning to action very soon in defense of his title on the undercard of Junto Nakatani versus Vincent Astrolabia.
Bam's got options if he wins. He's got options. And that's why I don't want him to move up no 2 weight classes to fight Noe Nui. There are perfectly good fights to make right there at 115.
Good fights. Great fights.
I don't think there's been an undisputed super flyweight champion in the 4-belt era. Not in the 4-belt era. Maybe in a previous one, but not this one.
Bam stands a legitimate chance of becoming that. All he's got to do is fight the fights, win the fights, and stay put.
Stay there. That's how I see it. Bam is one of the bright young stars in the American boxing scene that, for me, has been doing everything right. Taking risks and taking risky fights, as well as top fighters and champions, so on and so forth. So, just keep doing what you're doing, because you're doing it right.
Yeah.
Do you see yourself signing him, though? Like, do you think there could ever be like something else beyond this?
If he beat Zhilei Zhang,
yeah.
I'd love to sign him. You know, but it's up to him, really. It's like, he's got to work, you can have a great relationship with someone. If it's not the right move for your career, it's a bit like Canelo. I think he'd agree. If you said to him, who'd you like working with the most, depending on what position he was in, what press conference, I think he would genuinely say, Eddie, he's my guy. I love working with Eddie. But if the deal's not right, he ain't going to do it.
Yeah.
And he's not just going to go with me because we get on. He's going to make the right business decisions for his career, and I respect that.
Thinking about what would happen if Wilder wins, a lot of people would still want to see him fight Anthony Joshua. I myself don't have the same appetite for that fight that I used to. I mean, I could definitely go for it, and I know it would be a big fight. It would still be a very big fight, even though it's not for undisputed. But I don't have the same appetite that I used to for it, because, remember, we could have had this when they were both unbeaten fighters, when they were both unbeaten champions. I think Anthony still beats him. I've always thought Anthony beats Deontay Wilder. But if he beat him now, he wouldn't get the same credit for it that he would have before, when there were no excuses. The way these people's minds operate, if Anthony goes in there and does to Wilder what he did to Ngannou and what he did to Valine, they're just going to say, well, Wilder got old.
They'd make excuses. I mean, if they made all the excuses they made years ago when Fury beat him 2 times, you'd think they're not going to make excuses now? Of course they are.
In a very general sense, these are the kind of people that live their entire lives making excuses because they're fucking losers.
One after the other.
It's how they live, it's how they think and breathe and operate. They're just gonna make excuses. So knowing that they have that avenue because Wilder's older and, he lost last year to Parker, even if he can pull it off this weekend.
I don't know, maybe if he beats Zhang, then he beats somebody else, then that'll really show that he's still got it.
Eddie's entertaining the idea that he might sign this fighter if he makes it through this weekend's fight. And I think that would be a good move if Wilder does win. I mean, where else are you going to go? Last year the PBC didn't have the money to make the Andy Ruiz fight. That's why that didn't happen. The PBC, that ship is all but sailed, all but sunk.
It's done.
So what are you going to do? You going to go to Top Rank? Yeah, Top Rank is a potential destination. It is. But I think Matchroom would be a better fit to bring you closer to the Joshua fight that I just mentioned, and to keep you in bed with the Saudis, to keep fighting in big shows for big money like this weekend show.
Matchroom!
Should sign to Matchroom if he wins. But is he going to? The boys are all weighed in for this weekend's fight. Wilder weighed in at 214 pounds, where Chang weighed in at 282. For a perspective, that's a bigger discrepancy in weight than we saw 2 weeks ago when Usyk fought Fury.
Usyk weighed in at 223 pounds, more than Wilder weighs now. Fury weighed in at 262, I think it was. That's a difference of about 43 pounds.
The difference between Wilder and Chang is a difference of about 68 pounds. 68!
Yeesh.
And I know that there's an avenue of opportunity there for Wilder to land that big right hand, because Zhang is not a prolific puncher within a round. He's not that busy. He's up there in age just like Wilder, doesn't have the best engine, and doesn't throw very many combinations. No, he's more of a counter puncher.
Right?
So there's an avenue there for Wilder to create the space he needs to get off that big right hand, because he's not going to be flustered from all of Zhang's activity. What activity?
He's not that active.
But I look at Zhang's weight, that he didn't try to boil down in weight, didn't try to get fit and trim, didn't try to lose anything, and that communicates something to me, that he didn't train for the long haul. He didn't train to go the distance. That must mean he trained for the opposite. He wants to kill him quick. He wants to get Wilder out of there early.
Knock him out fast.
Zhang is a crafty boxer. He's proven himself to be more of a thinking man's fighter than he's given credit for. When you think about Zhang, you think about his power.
But he's a pretty good sharpshooter.
Making his power that much more devastating. I get the sense that Zhang's camp focused more on strategy and delivering that power, where Wilder's camp focused more on fitness, because you saw Wilder doing road work.
He doesn't normally do that. He's trying to improve his engine, his cardio. He's training for the long haul, I gather.
To maybe let it go a few rounds, then catch Chang by surprise. That's what it looks like. But the difference in weight, I mean, it could be a situation to where even the punches that Wilder blocks might move his entire fucking body, because the guy's got 68 pounds on you.
It's a lot of weight.
So neither Wilder or Zhilei Zhang are all that active within a round. They're not the most prolific punchers, the busiest punchers, neither of them. Wilder's an orthodox fighter, Chang is a southpaw.
Wilder's money punch is the straight right hand. In many ways, Chang's money punch is the straight left. But that's not all Chang has. He also has a pretty good right hook.
That's what he knocked Joe Joyce out with in their rematch. Off of the straight left hand. He shoots the left hand, then follows up with the right hook. Short right hook sends Joe to the canvas. Is he going to do that to Wilder?
He might.
If Wilder spends all that time worried about Zhilei Zhang's left hand, he won't see the right hook coming. For both men, it's a question of drawing the other guy's lead so that you can counter him with your backhand.
It's that way for both of them.
But trusting Wilder in this situation, given how he looked in his last fight, psychologically, where is he? Where is he really? Is this just him putting on a brave face because there's a lot of money to make?
I'm going with Zhang. I can't trust Wilder. I ain't got that kind of faith in the guy. I know there's a way for him to win, but does he really want it?
Guy's been around since 2008. Well over 40 fights.
Well over a decade.
I don't think it's presumptuous to say that he doesn't have the same passion for the sport that he used to. And this weekend may be his last hoorah. I'm going with Zhang, and I'm going with Zhang by way of knockout early.
I don't think it goes a distance. I think if Zhang's gonna knock him out, it'll be quick, within the first 6.